Heading into the 2016 season, the best thing that this organization could have done was fire Chip Kelly, the head coach and general manager. In particularly, Chip Kelly, the general manager, who got Chip Kelly, the head coach, fired. And just from the sheer fact of they realized that 3 years was enough of this doofus, 3 years was enough of that dodo bird, and you wanted to get him out of town before he really sank your organization to new depths. Even though the Eagles should have never given them personnel power to begin with, maybe at the time it felt like they were kind of boxed in. Credit to them, though, recognizing that it was time for a change. And it's funny now because I look at this Philadelphia Eagles organization. They didn't have a winning record this year. They weren't a playoff team. But you have to feel optimistic about the potential possibility of what is ahead for this organization. I thought Doug Peterson had a pretty adequate first year as an NFL head coach. Sure, he had his flaws and he had his moments, but I thought this team played well and did very well under Doug Peterson. The simple fact of the matter is Chip Kelly had done so much damage to this team, they weren't nearly as good as they maybe should have been. Just that way. But you get the new coach, you get a new quarterback in Carson Wentz. You look at this and you say it's crazy because you let Chip Kelly give up a ton to get Sam Bradford, which was stupid, which the Eagles fans and organization found out was stupid for a variety of reasons that aren't solely Sam Bradford's fault, but he is a part of the issue for a variety of reasons. So you decide you're going to sit there and re-sign Sam Bradford and give him guaranteed money, and it's just like, what the hell are you doing? But then the Eagles go and they trade up in the draft. They move up from 13 to 8, and they move from 8 to 2, and they ultimately come out of the draft with Carson Wentz. Then, once Teddy Bridgewater completely explodes his leg and almost loses it in practice for Minnesota, here come the Minnesota Vikings in their pants down desperation, asking to suck off Howie Roseman. Please give us Sam Bradford, we'll give you anything. Ho ho, let's Rick Meyer their ass. You're talking about an Eagles team that while they traded up and gave up a lot to go get Carson Wentz, replenished some of that by getting a first round pick in 2017 and a fourth round pick in 2018 for Sam fucking Bradford. So an organization heading into 2016 where you look like it was going to be another lost season with Sam Bradford wasting your time, a first year head coach trying to establish himself, and a rookie probably sitting at third string all year not seeing the damn field. Instead, you trade away Sam Bradford, a mediocre at best NFL starting quarterback, and get a first and future fourth round pick from the Minnesota Vikings, which that first round pick will either be 14 or 15 depending on the result of the coin flip, I believe, at the combine. And now you've got your quarterback of the future in Carson Wentz. And he had moments and flashes where he showed that potential of being that dude, especially early on in the year. This is a team that started off 3-0, very surprising 3-0. Then at one point in time, a little past midway through the season, they were still 5-4. So even though they started to come crashing down to earth a little bit, the reality was this was still a better than anticipated team with a defense under defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz that was playing really, really well and frankly above itself, and an offense that was playing well and frankly above itself. Reality kind of caught up with them the last 7 games of the season, and they went 2-5 the rest of the way to finish 7-9. But a 7-9 finish with a first-year head coach, a rookie quarterback from North Dakota State, with a clear lack of weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and even still some holes on the defensive side of the ball. If you're an Eagles fan, you have to feel very optimistic about the future. You took the Sam Bradford situation, turned it into a total positive for yourself, and you're still able to get your young franchise guy to build around. And now that we get to this season, especially when you look at the way the second half of the season broke down for Carson Wentz, and he wasn't all that good. His mechanics started to break down a little bit. I thought his confidence was rattled just a little bit. But frankly, most importantly of all, the talent wasn't very good around him. Now it's all about going into that offseason and building up that side of the ball around Carson Wentz. That's what has to happen. Unfortunately for the Eagles, they don't have a ton of salary cap space. They just cut Byron Maxwell, so I believe that gives them a few million more. But that might put him in the 15 to 20 million range where, when I was piecing this stuff together, they only had about 10 million in salary cap space. That's not a ton of room to do a lot of maneuvering in the offseason. Are they going to maybe re-sign a Jordan Matthews during this offseason? Probably. But we'll see. But what it all comes down to for the Eagles, now that you've got your young quarterback and you drafted your young quarterback, you have to build the unit around him on the offensive side of the ball through said draft. It's funny where if the Eagles hadn't have traded away Sam Bradford and they finished with the same 7-9 record, they're sitting at pick 12. But they gave up pick 12 as for this year as part of the deal to move up from 8-2 to go get Carson Wentz last year. And at the end of the day, because they traded Sam Bradford, the geniuses that the Eagles were, they found the Vikings as a desperate team coming with their pants down. The Eagles just basically went down from 12 to 14 in this, or 15 in this draft. Not a big issue. They've still got a pick in each of the remaining 6 rounds 2 through 7. So for an Eagles team that in theory supposedly gave up a ton to go up and get their quarterback, now the draft's in Philadelphia this year. They've got a first-round pick, and they've got picks on day 2, and they've got all their picks on day 3 as well. The Eagles are potentially poised here to have a solid offseason, and especially if they can help out Carson Wentz on the offensive side of the ball and he can work on some things, the Eagles are staring down the barrel of being a 10-win team and a playoff team in 2017. But it's really going to be really important that they do well in this upcoming draft. In terms of their team needs, I look at them as threefold. They have to get better at wide receiver. They have to get better at running back. And they have to get better on that offensive line, in particular at the tackle position. Now, it's funny, the past couple of years, if I ever mock a tackle to the Eagles fans always bitch about, we still got Jason Peters and Jason Peters and Jason Peters. Okay, until Jason Peters is hurt and or is probably a cap casualty at some point in time if he doesn't just flat out retire. In the meantime, you've got Lane Johnson, who's already had 2 PED suspensions in 4 seasons, missed 4 games the first time, he was suspended 10 games the second time. What happens if he gets caught again? Furthermore, if you're exploring the thought of potentially flipping him to right tackle to left tackle, then you have a gaping hole at right tackle, and if you keep him at right tackle and you have to get rid of Peters, or Peters isn't going to be there much longer, what the fuck are you going to do? You need to fill that potential future gaping void at left tackle. And you have to protect your quarterback better. And it's unfortunate for the Eagles that the offensive tackle class is not great, because it probably puts a premium on them potentially drafting one in round 1, which might mean that they pass up on a superior talent at the wide receiver or running back position. To me, in an ideal world, in terms of the prospects available in round 1, that would seem to make the most sense to me. At the wide receiver position, for them, I think it would be Mike Williams over Corey Davis, if he's there. At the running back position, I think Dalvin Cook makes the most sense. He's a very natural fit for what they want to do. But if they wanted to get cute and try and trade back a little bit, maybe an Alvin Kamara makes a ton of sense for them. But I would expect Dalvin Cook to be the guy if he was on the board and he was available for them to take, because he has too much impact ability for all 3 downs. The perfect type of security blanket for a Carson Wentz. And then offensive line, maybe a guy like Ramczyk from Wisconsin, because he could potentially stick at left tackle, which allows you to play Lane Johnson at his better, more natural right tackle position. Defensively, I think they still have some needs at the corner position, especially if they just released Byron Maxwell. I look at this Eagles team, though. They've got some holes, but the good thing is they have the picks to potentially address some of those holes. It's just a matter of, assuming that Nelson Aguilar stinks and isn't going to figure it out, assuming Dorial Green-Beckham isn't going to figure it out, assuming that your long-term running back is not on the roster, you go out and you fill those holes. And this is an Eagles team that starts to look a lot more exciting and filled with a lot more potential of possibility for 2017.